Welcome to the Made in Maine podcast, where we dive headfirst to discuss difficult topics, core principles, and the creativity behind the thriving Made in Maine community. We invite you to tune in whether you're a skeptic, on the fence, or have many years designing and creating Maine-made products. Join us as we grow together and continue to put Maine on the map with the Made in Maine podcast. What do you got going on lately?
Well, I just got done with the Bangor Mall Craft Fair. I've been talking about it a lot. This episode is going to be coming out way in the future, way after it ended, but it went pretty well. For a free show, I can't complain. And, I handed out a lot of business cards, over 500 business cards I handed out. And hopefully it's going to generate some business in the future, But right now it's February. It's February. So the people really aren't thinking about buying gifts or things like that. Whereas, in the fall, you're going to be having more purchases at these craft shows. So one in February, I wasn't really expecting to sell a lot at the show. So it was more just like trying to get the word out that I actually exist, So it went pretty well. So what's going on with you?
Well, I'll just follow up on what you just said.
Sure.
I'm in the same boat on some of the shows that I've done where you really want them to be a success. Maybe you've never done them before and you want to knock it out of the park. And maybe you do. You just don't always see that up front. So I've been to some shows where I've handed out 500 business cards, like you said. I was like, wow, they handed out so many, but I'm like, I wonder how many of those are actually going to get some orders maybe or thrown away.
Sure.
Who really knows what comes of that? But it's really grinding. You gotta grind it out. You gotta get your name out there. And I've told you that before. Your brand, people are going to start to know more about Black Dog Ironworks.
Definitely.
And hey, kudos to that. I got to stop by, got to see you there.
Yeah.
Love the setup. I think you put a lot of effort in your setup. It's so clean. I know I talk about it a lot.
Sure.
A little jealous. Because everything, like even your business cards are in a nice custom business card holder.
Yeah, actually, speaking of those were actually a really big hit. So I had, at some of the other craft fairs that I did, there were a lot of crafters coming up to me saying, "Oh, wow, you even made your own business card holder." And they were like, "Oh, I'd love to buy one from you." And I was like, "Well, I don't really have any." But so I actually made a bunch this time, and I almost sold out of them. So
somebody wanted the one that you made for your business card holders.
Yeah, actually, one of the last shows I did, at the very end of the show, someone came up to me and wanted to buy it from me. The only one I had that was holding
wasn't even for sale.
No, I was just holding my business cards with it. So I was like, sure, and I just gave them a price, and they bought it. But that's,
And then you sold a bunch of them. That was one of your hotter items at this past show.
Yeah, it actually was. I was very surprised.
There, maybe thinking the everlasting roses with Valentine's Day.
No, I only sold one.
But he sold a bunch of business card holders.
Yeah.
And if you've seen the business card holders, you'll understand why. That was what jumped out to me when you see, because there's tons of business card holders out there. They're kind of just...
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely it's unique.
Yeah.
You're not going to find it anywhere else. So.
You don't have to worry about it breaking.
No,
for sure.
No.
All your stuff is very rugged, very rustic looking. It's great.
Yeah, so that's kind of like where one of my ideas comes. Sometimes my ideas come from my customers or other crafters. Just mentioning something to me or pointing something out to me. So what about you? Where do some of your ideas come from? Where do you get some of your creativity?
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you the creativity behind products, and I think you really just touched on it. You just wanted something to hold your business cards. Sometimes it's like that, where maybe you don't put a whole lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you think, wait a second, I think I might have something here. I'm going to start making business card holders. Yeah. So sometimes it happens like that. Other times for me, I'm just putting maybe a little bit more thought into it. Like a lot of times I try to do seasonal things. So when I'm creating a box, obviously a box of Maine is you pick the items, we ship them. But other times I think, well, what if I make a Valentine's box or an Easter box or a Mother's Day box? What are some items that might fit good into those themed boxes? So some of my successful boxes have been themed boxes. We have a blueberry box where it's just blueberry items, and those do good around blueberry season. We have a maple box, just maple items. They do good around maple season, and so on and so on. So when I'm thinking, so there's one that I created recently, and it was a combination of customers asking they wanted me to send them an Italian sandwich. And so from Maine, I'm in Maine. I know that you moved here later on in life, but I don't even know if it's a Maine thing. We call them hoagies. We call them Italians, Italian subs, sub sandwiches. There's so many different types of terms that we use here. But essentially, it's the split in the foot long, sub roll, and you slap the meats in there, cold cuts, maybe some mayo, mustard, and then you throw all the veggies in there. You have to have a little bit of sandwich oil and, whatever else you like to put in there. Yep. Pickles, got to have some sour pickles on there. And that's what we have as Italian sub sandwiches. There's tons of sub shops around the state of Maine where you go, and that's what people are getting. They're like, I'll take an Italian, ham Italian. And so people kept asking me, I'm like, I can't send Italian sandwiches. Yeah. That's crazy. Like, I would have to overnight the sub sandwich to get there. And I still can't imagine it would be like soggy. So I thought, I thought about this for a while, Matt. This one took like a year of me just kind of looking it over. How would I do this? How would I do this? So I was like, well, how about people can get cold cuts wherever in the country, but what's the actual core components that people want? And it's the bread and the Italian sandwich oil, like a name brand oil. So sure. I reached out to Sam's Foods. It's really prevalent down in the southern part of the state. And I reached out to them and we worked the deal out. So I got their Sam's Italian sandwich oil, core ingredient. And then I worked out a deal with Lucarelli's sub rolls. And so I was able to get some fresh sub rolls. And so what I did is I got all the components. And so now people can get a build your own Italian sandwich box. So they get the rolls, the Italian sandwich oil, they get a bag of Humpty Dumpty barbecue potato chips, and then they can add other options like whoopie pie, moxie, and mustard.
Wow, that's an incredible idea.
So that's the creativity behind it. I start piecing it together. So you add the cold cuts, you add the mustard, the mayonnaise, and the veggies, whatever else you want to do. Yep. And it's a create your own Italian box.
Wow, that's awesome. No, that's pretty incredible.
There's more to it. It's dimensions, right? Finding out, okay, if I put a package of 4 12-inch Italian sub rolls in here, what box do I have to? I have to find the right box for it, and what else can I fit in that box? What's the weight of all this going to be? The dimensions. Where am I going to price this out at? And so there's a little bit of a creative process, and financially you have to look it over, see what makes sense. You don't want to be way out of the ballpark on your pricing where, $50 for it. You want to try to find that happy medium where you're making a good, healthy margin. And that's kind of some of the thought process that goes into what I do. And we also had a blogger come by.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
A blogger. I'm like, okay. She reached out to me. Maine Features is what she calls her blogger, her blog, I guess. Yeah. And she goes throughout the state. Her mission is to visit all the towns in the whole state of Maine, like the more well-known towns. There's some places here that are like townships. They're not even named. Yep. But she's looking for, like Old Town in Portland and Bangor. She said she was going to try to hit like 400 or whatever to different towns. Wow. And she wants to find something a little unique in each town, not like all the, famous stuff like LL Bean in Freeport. She found something else in Freeport that maybe didn't have a whole lot of spotlight on. Yeah. Well, she reached out to me. She said that she had followed us on social media. She liked what we were doing, and she wanted Box of Maine to represent Old Town. So I was pretty honored by that because there are some other businesses here that have a lot of history. But she really liked the concept of Box of Maine. So she came in and I gave her a little tour and talked to her a little bit about my history, starting in my basement and moving up one step at a time. And we kind of just got to talk a little bit about Box of Maine. And then she went and wrote a nice piece on mainefeatures.maine, her blog site.
That's .me?
.me.
Yeah. Very cool. So one last thing, I guess, for this little intro here. I just found out that I'm going to be at the Common Ground Fair this year. It's going to be Friday, September 25th to Sunday, September 27th, and that's in Unity, Maine. And a lot of people know about this because this is a big, big fair here in Maine. And they host hundreds of meetings and workshops, conferences, and things like that. There's it's a lot of agricultural stuff going on. Right. So it's run by the I believe it's the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. So there's a lot of gardening and things like that. But there's also a big craft section, and so this is going to be a pretty big opportunity for me. I'm a little nervous for it too, because this is probably going to be one of the biggest shows I've ever done.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's going to be like a lot of preparation, a lot of planning, making sure I have a lot of product ready to go, and it's a little scary, but also very exciting.
Yeah, great. I hope that you do well there.
Thanks.
So on this episode of the Made in Maine podcast, we have Forever Clean Soap with us, and they brought some of their great products to bring so that we could give them away to you. We have salt scrubs and body butters, and of course some of their best-selling soaps and a bath bomb. So you're going to need to listen to the whole show to figure out how to win. Today we have the owners of Forever Clean Soap Company. They were established by 3 retired women who met at the gym. Forever Clean Soap Company creates a luxury cold processed soap, whipped body butters, and sea salt scrubs that are handmade in Vassalboro, Maine. In the first year, Susan, Terry, and Cindy suffered many bad batches and celebrated a few successes, giving away everything that was usable to their family and friends. That was 4 years ago, and today, their soaps and scrubs come in over 100 different fragrances and colors. Last year, they attended 36 craft events in Maine and New Hampshire, selling over 8,000 bars of soap, in addition to their other products. If you are looking for some soap that moisturizes, lathers, smells heavenly, and can be used for bathing and hand and face washing, then give their soaps a try.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we've got all 3 of them here in the tiny Box of Maine studios here.
So thank you so much for making the trip up from Vassalboro. Am I saying it right? I feel like I might have messed it up a little bit. So thank you for making the trip up to Box of Maine. We have lots of different types of products in front of us. But before we jump into all the different products that you have created, I know you have lots of different scents. Why don't you let us know how it got started? How did you ladies meet each other?
Well, we met, I would say it was in 2003. We met in the locker room at Gilly's Gym in Waterville. Gilly's Gym is no longer open, but we've still all remained friends. And we got to be friends, and the other 2 were sisters, so they already were friends.
You've already known each other for a while.
I got to know them, and we all liked to do little traveling adventures, and we would bring little gifts for each other when we went on a trip. So we would buy soap and bring soap to each other. And that, it just kind of became a tradition that every place we went, we'd buy soap for each other. And we were just brainstorming one day and said, geez, we ought to learn to make soap. We like it. And we were all still working at that point. We got to try to make it. So we bought a book and we used the internet and we tried it. We bought just enough ingredients to make one batch. When I look back on it now, I know it was really a very bad batch of soap. But it did harden, and people used it. But it wasn't pretty like what we make now. But that's how we started. We just learned to make soap.
You said you bought a book.
Bought a book.
In internet, are you talking like YouTube videos?
Yes, YouTube videos and, just
searches,
looking for recipes, trying different recipes. And we've been through many, many different recipes by this point and really have kind of come up with our own. Mm-hmm. But we borrowed recipes from other soapers and we just learned to do it. And we started giving it away to people and using it ourselves. And everybody kept saying, well, geez, you ought to be selling this soap. You could make this into a little business. So slowly but surely that started to happen.
Right. And so were you all still working at the time?
Yes.
When this was happening, right?
Yes.
And so it kind of just started as like a hobby, a fun thing where you're just making it and crafting it up, trial and error, trying to get it perfected. And then so at what point did things start to transition for you?
I think they started to transition. I retired about just over 4 years ago, and that's when it started to transition. I retired first of the 4 of us and was, taking care of my elderly mother. and, kind of not knowing what to do with my time. And that's when I think I got really more interested and started looking for body butters and salt scrubs and other things that we could make and sell.
Yeah.
So what did each of you do before you decided to go into this business?
I was a fourth grade school teacher for the last 23 years of my career. I retired 3 years ago.
And I was a fast food manager, restaurant manager. So I'm used to the fast pace. And
And I've spent most of my career at Waterville High School, first as the director of guidance, and then in the last few years as the director of adult education.
Oh, very good. Very good. So could you walk us through a little bit about how your soaps are made?
Absolutely. It takes 3 of us.
Yeah.
We all
So
have.
this is Terry. We have Terry here. I don't know if we've formally introduced everybody.
Well, we did in the intro a little
did
bit.
we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You named them, but
So we each have our own jobs because one of the things you have to do when you make soap is you have to mix lye with distilled water.
Mhm.
And that takes place in the garage because it is caustic. And so I pretty much take care of that and checking temperatures. The temperature is really important. In the meantime, Cindy is scooping out the oils and getting those on the stove to melt. Susan's working on colors and the fragrances and the essential oils, and she's getting that all prepared. When the temperatures match, she mixes the lye and the distilled water with the oils. Then she adds the fragrance and the colors, and then we're hoping that it's fluid enough to pour it into a wooden mold box.
wow. So it sounds like a lot of teamwork and a lot of coordination that go
yeah.
into it.
It's crazy. And it's the biggest mess you've ever seen.
Yeah. So where are you doing this?
We do it in my kitchen in Bassville.
In your kitchen?
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we do it right there in the kitchen, and Cindy washes all the dishes, and we have to really clean things up well when it's over, because lye, of course, is very caustic, as Terry said, and I do have cats, and we can't have them anywhere around, of course. Because if they even licked one bit of the lye, it would be a problem. So
that would be not good.
It's quite a thing to do, and we usually make about 24 batches in a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
So that's 24 wooden boxes that hold 8 pounds each.
Wow.
Just to give us a perspective, how many were you making in the beginning? You said now you're making 24 batches a day. What did you start off? How many did you make when you first started?
One or two batches.
Yeah.
And how many scents, different types of scents and fragrances did you have for the soaps when you first started?
First started the business, not just first started making it.
I remember I ordered the scents, and the first one we ever ordered was fir needle, and the second one was lavender, and the third one was lemongrass. And we started with those 3 pretty much.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely started buying more and more. And we have a very hard time setting limits.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at most soap companies, they just have a certain amount of fragrances, and we just want to try new fragrances all the time. So
so I know a little bit about soap making. So after you make the soap, you have to let it cure, right?
Correct.
So you have to let it sit. How long does it have to sit for?
At least 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh wow, yeah, that's quite a while.
That's because I stock their soap. I have their wild Maine blueberry scented soap, and so when I order it, I need to keep that in mind. That it has to be ordered
ahead of time,
much ahead of time than some of my other products that I stock. So explain to me, because I don't know if I ever asked or if I fully understand it. Why is it so long for it to cure?
it's the saponification.
That's a big word. For the listener, that's saponification.
It's basically the lye dissipating out of the soap, because obviously you don't want soap that's still very caustic from the lye. So that's the main reason is...
Yeah. That seems like an important reason.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to be a chemist to really fully understand it. We just take their word for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We wait.
And does it hardens up pretty quickly, or does that take a little bit of time for that to happen as well?
Takes 24 hours.
Okay, you just said that.
Yeah. When we finish putting the soap in the boxes, we put a cover on the box. We wrap the box in a blanket, and we sit it for 24 hours. And it stays warm for a good part of that time. Then 24 hours later, we open the box, take the soap out, Terry cuts it. We have a little apparatus we use to slice the soap. Cindy stamps it. We have several different stamps that we use. You can see on that whoopie pie soap, there's a little bathtub.
Yeah. Talk about that real quick, because I noticed, because I often look around for products to go in the box of Maine, and there are a handful of soap makers out there that I've come across. However, this was the only one that I had seen that had this imprint or press into the back of it. Like the blueberry soap actually has a picture of a blueberry pressed in the back of it. I thought that was very neat.
Right.
Maybe set you apart a little bit.
It does set us apart, and we have many different stamps. So we try to
You have to stamp
have a
every
stamp.
single one?
Every single stamp.
wow.
Every single soap. Cindy will stamp it.
Yeah.
And then the next day, we bring all the soap out again, and we bevel it. And you can probably tell by feeling our soaps that the edges have been cut off a tiny bit.
Yeah, I do see that.
So every single side of that is beveled because we don't want people to feel the sharp edges in the shower.
Explain to me the tops, because I've noticed on some of the other soap makers they have this wavy top at the top of it. What's the reasoning for that?
Well, it's pretty much the aesthetic part of it. It just looks pretty
so
to
it's
have
not
a
just like
top
a perfectly
like that.
square rectangle.
Right. The thicker your soap is, you never know how thick or thin your soap is going to be when you pour it into the boxes.
Sure.
The thicker the soap is, the easier it is to do something fancy with the top.
Got it.
So if your soap is very thin, for example, this goat's milk soap is often quite thin when we pour it in, then it's quite flat on the top. But there are soapers that spend a lot of time really having a fancy top on their soap. And, we do it some, but not a lot, because we really want our soap to be usable.
Sure. You're not so worried about the aesthetic
exactly.
of it. Yeah,
I mean, we like it to be pretty. We like all the colors and everything, but, we don't want it to sit in the bathroom because it's beautiful. We want people to use it.
Well, I think it's beautiful. I have one in front of me right now. It's called the Whoopie Pie, and it kind of looks like a whoopie pie. It's dark, almost like a dark chocolate on the top. It's got a white creamy middle, and then on the bottom, also chocolate looking. So where do you come up with the ideas for all these different scents of fragrance? Should I eat this one?
Smell it.
She was pointing to her
she's
mouth.
telling me to smell it. She wanted me to eat it. I'll do it as long as it doesn't have light. Yeah, it smells chocolate.
It smells like a whoopie pie.
Oh my word! Why don't I have this in the box?
I don't
There
know.
you go. You should definitely do that.
We need to talk afterwards. So, where do you come up with all these ideas of all this different scents? You said really the sky's the limit. Talk on that a little bit.
Well, I'm the one who does the ordering, and I get on these websites that sell the fragrances and essential oils. We do use a lot of essential oils. However, there are only so many essential oils you can
There's not a whoopie pie
purchase.
essential oil.
Right.
Yeah.
And only essential oils are extracted from plants, and there's only so many you can buy. And we're really known for our large variety, so we also use some fragrances.
Yeah.
And we put it on the label so people know which. We find people don't care much whether it's an essential oil or a
Yeah,
fragrance.
they're probably
Sure.
a general
Right.
consumer. I know some
Right.
people, some soap makers out there are like, oh, it has to be
Exactly.
all essential
and
oils.
we do that, right?
Yeah.
But we have both. And I basically like to get online and go to these companies that sell these fragrances and oils and read comments and just do a little research on what everybody's favorite scent is, what's their top seller, and then we buy it. Sometimes we make only 1 or 2 batches and we never make it again.
So you have some hits and you have some...
Exactly.
We've talked about this on the show before.
Right.
Matt and I have, when it comes to our creative process and when we're introducing new things, some things are a success and some aren't. You have to try. But how will you know unless you go out and you try it?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, do you have any duds that you can share with us?
Well, citronella.
Oh.
Are we talking about the same stuff I buy to keep the mosquitoes away?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
So putting that on your skin maybe to keep the
Citronella was not only a dud because we did sell it all in the end, but we couldn't stand the smell of it ourselves. And so, and the other one that is not a dud, it's a big seller for us, but we personally don't care for, is patchouli.
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard of it before. It sounds
Oh,
like an
you haven't?
Italian word.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's very much in demand, and people love our patchouli soap because we put essential oil in it. But we don't care for the scent ourselves, so
So you really it's got to be something that you like. I mean, and that's kind of, that's a part of it. Obviously, you do some product testing. It sounds like you looked at reviews and find out
right.
what are people wanting, what's the demand. I mean, that makes sense from a business standpoint if you want to sell a lot of a certain fragrance or essential oil. But there's more to it. You want to get behind it too, because now you're going to have to say, hey, this is good soap. I like it. It smells great.
Right.
But if you don't like it, that's a little bit challenging, right? So,
And some fragrances are very difficult to work with. You put your fragrance in your soap when it's still liquidy, and it thickens it
oh wow,
to a point where you can't even pour it into the
box,
and it's completely ruined. We've ruined some, so we've learned that there are some fragrances that we just really have a difficult time using. For example, coconut.
Oh, yeah.
Is one of them. Very difficult. Rose is another one. And so we're constantly looking and researching what other people are saying to make sure we're not purchasing, because that's the most expensive item in our soap, the most expensive ingredient.
Essential oils?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the duds. So what are your hits? What are the successes that you've had?
I would say our biggest success is raspberry. That is now probably our number one seller. Lavender.
That raspberry.
So we're
one
smelling
smells,
these soaps right now as they're
the raspberry is really good.
Spearmint eucalyptus.
Spearmint eucalyptus.
Lilac.
Yes, lilac was one that a friend asked us to make for her, and it has turned into a very big seller. People love it.
It smells like lilac.
Yes,
Oh my
absolutely.
goodness.
And of course, blueberry. Blueberry is a big hit as well.
I can imagine. Yeah. So I'm looking at the ingredients here, and I see mica powder as one of them. Now, mica is a stone, isn't that? Is it mineral?
Yes.
Yeah, and
that's the color.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah. The mica powder is is one of the ways that we color our soaps.
Sure. So what are the other ways that you color?
You can use a natural ingredients, like
Madder
root or pumpkin powder.
Pumpkin powder.
Yes,
Wow.
pumpkin powder.
Very
you can use
interesting.
some natural ingredients. For example, in our goat's milk, we always put. I don't have my glasses on, but I'm sure that will tell you what the natural ingredient is that gives it a little green.
Spinach? Is that
Spirulina powder.
Spirulina powder,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a large assortment of natural colors.
How many scents would you say that you have total?
It's over 100.
No way.
I would say
you have over 100
I would say
scents.
about 120 to 130.
Yes.
Wow. And so then you also have to have a stamp for each one, right?
Yes, we
Yes.
stamp it.
Wow.
We have several stamps. We don't have 120 stamps,
Okay.
No.
but we have several. We have
This is our most common, the lady in the tub. That's our
okay.
logo.
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
my favorite. That's a cat.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
We do a cat on several of our soaps.
So I see different sizes. I know that I don't get the largest size soap. I kind of get a modified one, like a half bar or something. Are those the types of sizes? Do you just have a full size bar and then a half bar or whatever you?
Yes, that's more 2/3 bar.
The small soap that you buy for your boxes are 2/3 the size of this soap.
Right.
And we really make those only for special orders.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
People who are buying our soaps for, say, a baby shower or a wedding shower or a wedding
Wedding. We have
or
one
any
for-
kind of an event,
Yeah.
often buy the smaller size.
Okay.
It's just more.
So you have
Sure.
2 different sizes and maybe a third for special people is what we're
Right.
Yeah.
great.
So what other products do you guys sell?
Well, one of the new things that we've been doing, we sell body butter, and that's very popular for us. I make the body butter, and we sell it in 5 different scents. Lilac and lemongrass and lavender and vanilla lavender and coconut. And we're also experimenting with some peppermint at Popular.
Okay, so myself and Matt here, we don't really do. At least I don't do a whole lot of soap. I'm more of a, I don't know, whatever my wife buys, and I don't do any type of body butters or creams.
So what's the difference between like a body butter and a lotion?
A body butter melts right on your skin.
Oh, so it's more like solid when
Mhm.
you're putting it
Yes,
on. Oh,
and then
okay.
it'll melt on there. It's
Yeah.
really amazing for dry hands.
Yeah.
So how did you, so you started with soap.
Yeah.
How did you transition or, add on more product lines?
When I retired and had more time, I just made the decision that we should have something besides soap.
Yeah.
So I just did a lot of research and tried several recipes with the body butter.
So you have
And
5 or 6 different ones. How are they
Mhm.
doing sales-wise?
they do
They
really
do
well.
very well.
Right.
Yeah.
They do so well, actually, that we have decided to put CBD in body butter, and that has become a big product for us also. It's our same exact recipe as our regular body butter, but we now add CBD to it.
Sure. So explain CBD for some of our listeners who may not know exactly what CBD is.
CBD is a product extracted from the marijuana or the hemp plant
Yep.
that does not get you high, and it's legal in the state of Maine. And we're not doctors, so we can't say for sure, but research and our customers
Yeah.
tell us that it really helps with sore muscles and
Mhm.
achiness. And people just rub it on any place that's sore, and they buy it from us. We just delivered 2 on the way here today.
Yeah.
They buy it from us over and over.
And just one little plug for the body butter. It's a really nice body butter. You put it on, it soaks into your skin, and then your skin feels so silky and soft. And we always have samples out at our craft shows. Once people try it, chances are pretty good that they're going
Nice.
to buy it.
Sure, I could probably use some for my blacksmith hands.
I got the paper cuts from Pack and Box.
Yeah.
You need the gardener and mechanic soap. that
Oh,
we make.
explain those.
We do have what we call a gardener's soap, and it also can be called mechanic soap, which has cranberry seeds in it.
Oh, yeah.
Cranberry seeds?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's
gives it a
very
little
good
bit
for
more
cleaning
abrasiveness.
off oil and grease.
Mhm.
That's what you need to have.
There you go.
Very cool.
Matt's wife, if you're listening,
Yeah.
get him some of this mechanic soap over here.
Very
So
cool.
we got the body butter. We
Yeah.
see all the different types of soaps.
Yeah.
I see something else. I see a bath bomb.
I'm responsible for the bath bombs. I started making those because a lot of people were selling bath bombs and we just didn't have any, and a lot of customers were asking us if we had any. So I started working on that over a year ago, and it was not an easy process. Bath bombs are a lot harder to make than people would think,
Mhm.
mainly because when you're making them, you have to get them just the right wetness. If they're too wet, they activate. You don't want them to activate until they go
Sure,
into the water.
like when you put them in the bath, they fizz up, right?
Exactly. You don't want that to happen until somebody's putting it in their tub.
Yeah.
Or if it's too dry, it falls apart or cracks and breaks. So I finally have it down now, and now they're coming out. I've got my recipe the way I like it, and now I can do that. And
So there's
it's
a
been
lot of
big-
tweaking. I see a lot of different types of products in here, much different than the soap. Is there anything that kind of transitions over or that you can use similar products that you use for the soap, or is this all new?
Just the
Everything.
fragrances and the colors. Other than that, they are all different ingredients. There's baking soda and
Yeah, I
there's
saw that.
citric acid and
Cream of tartar. We had Jimbo from
Yeah.
New England Covered on
Yep.
last show, and he's got cream of tartar in
that
his
helps
cooking.
in hardening. That helps harden
Yeah.
it, as well as the kaolin clay. That helps harden it as well.
In some of her bath bombs, she puts a little toy
No,
Yeah.
for
Yes.
children.
Inside
Yes.
of it?
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Right.
pretty
So
cool.
they put it
Yeah.
in the tub and then
I'm taking
put
it back
Very-
tonight.
yeah,
I
very
love
cool.
those, right.
Yeah, my kids love the bath bombs.
Yeah.
They go nuts for them.
Yeah.
I have some with little animals or transportation vehicles, but I have some with Lego figures.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
really popular
Very
too.
cool.
But so many people came to the shows and said, I don't have a bathtub, that Terry then did some research and learned how to make shower steamers.
So,
So-
what are those?
This one right here is a shower steamer, and there's no color in it. It's just white. And that has essential oils in it. And I do 4 different ones, and each one has 2 different essential oils, and it's for different reasons. I have one. That one is a de-stress.
Mhm.
So it has lavender and another essential oil with it. One for refresh, for like waking up in the morning. I have one that's for if you have a cold or you're stuffed up or you're not feeling well. Has crystal menthol crystals in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's, smells a little bit like, if you remember Vicks Vapor Rub,
Yeah.
a little bit like that.
Yeah. So how do you use these? You put these in the
So
shower?
You put it in the shower. You
Yeah.
can put it in the corner of your shower on a shelf or a dish. And it's activated with a little water.
Yep.
And you can activate it each time you shower. And it will release the essential oil. So it's about aromatherapy.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But if you put it directly into the spray, it's one and done.
Yeah.
You get one shower.
Sure.
And you'll get a lot of fragrance.
Yeah.
All at once.
But do you have a favorite scent? I keep saying scent. Is that the right
Fragrance. Probably fragrance.
Do you have favorites? Let's hear. All right. So Terry, what is we'll go around the table. What is your favorite fragrance of soap?
I love the orange, but I also love the spearmint eucalyptus. So I'm kind of a toss-up between those two.
Okay.
Mine is almond and honey.
Almond
That
and
sounds-
honey.
that
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Mine is Lily of the Valley.
Lily of the Valley.
Very cool.
Excellent. Mine's, I don't know, I'm still kind of partial to the whoopie pie. The whoopie pie one, I'm going to keep this close to me. I like this.
The one product I haven't mentioned is the salt scrub. And we sell our products to a shop in Ogunquit, Maine called Seashell Cottage. And a friend of mine is the owner. And we were in there one day, and she said, I think you should learn to make salt scrub. At the place next door in the bathroom, they have a dish of it out for people to wash their hands, and I think people would really buy that. So why don't you learn to make it?
There you go.
So we did.
Very cool.
That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask is, do you hear often from your customers or maybe people just walking by your booths? And we'll talk about that because I know you do a lot of craft shows. So do you hear from people all the time, we want this scent or we want this fragrance, we want this product?
Mm-hmm.
And you hear it over and over and over, and then eventually like, well, maybe we should look into getting it, right?
That's right.
So is that something that kind of that bath scrub, or what'd you call it? Salt scrub?
Salt scrub.
Salt scrub. And that's for when you wash your hands or
Your whole body. You can put it
Okay.
on your whole body.
I
But you
was-
have to have water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband
Oh
just
my, yeah.
started using it because his feet were so dry.
Yeah.
And he said, my feet so I said, you want to try the scrub?
Yeah.
And now he does.
Yeah.
But with water though,
But
right?
Yeah.
with water
Okay, got
in the
it.
shower.
Taking notes. So you do a bunch of shows. I've seen you. That's where I saw you. I saw you at the Blueberry Festival.
That's right.
Terry came over to my booth, and big old smile on her face. She goes, our soap needs to be in your box, she said. She came right out. I'm not even sure if she said hello.
She's the salesperson.
Yeah. She won me over, very professional, very polite and kind. I said, well, I already have a soap. And you're like, no, you need our soap. Look, and you're like, I'll go get some for you. And she comes back with a bunch of different soaps and just gives them to me. She goes, here, you're going to like this soap. Look it over and get back to me. And sure enough, or no, she got back to me. And she stayed at it, and then she got me. She won me over, and so I met you. That was at the Wild Maine Blueberry Festival in Machias, Maine. What are some other shows? I think you said you did like 20 something last year.
36, I think is what it was.
36.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's
you
a
ladies
lot.
are busy.
We're busy.
I do like
Sometimes-
5 shows.
Yeah, me too.
And that's overwhelming.
And we often have 2 in one weekend.
Wow. So
So
you
that
guys
we
you guys
divide up.
split up and go to different ones. Okay.
So
Yeah.
talk to us about some of the bigger shows that you do, and where are they at?
Flaherty Farms in Scarborough, Maine in August. That's a big show.
We do most of the shows through United Maine Craftsmen. We do almost all of their shows. And that's Flaherty Farms, and, in Southern Maine. And actually, they have one in Brewer and one in Bangor also. But they also have some in Southern Maine.
And the Southern Society of Maine Craftsmen as well.
Yeah.
That's another organization. We do several of those. We do Smiling Hill in Westbrook. Farm in Westbrook, big show for us.
So which ones do you find that you do the best at? Is it the small like craft fair ones, or is it you're talking like high volume people, big shows?
Yeah. We don't do well at shows in some of the schools, if a high school's having a craft show or something.
Yeah.
We don't do as well. We do better in places where a lot of tourists come.
Yep.
They love the Maine soaps, and
We do several in Wells.
we do a lot down on
So
the
really
coast.
southern Maine and the
Ogunquit,
coast. Sounds like that's where I
Wells,
need to go.
We go to New Hampshire for 2 shows. We do a 3-day show in Lincoln, New Hampshire, which is really a lot of fun. And we do one in early May. We go to It's called the Kitty Angels. It's an organization that benefits cats, and I'm very much in love with cats. So we go down to that one in May and set up our tent, and we do very well there. And that's in New Hampshire. And we've done some out of state, but it's very expensive to go.
Yeah.
To those.
So I just got done with the Bangor Mall Craft Fair, and you guys were also there. So how did that go for you?
That went well, considering that in February we don't have any shows usually, and to have 2 weekends of shows, we certainly made more money than we have any other February.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. That's the same way it is with me. Yeah, usually you don't do the February shows. There's not really many of them out there. But considering it was free, I did really well. I mean, it was pretty good.
It was nice. That was a really nice gesture. We felt very fortunate to be part of that.
Sure. Is there any criticisms of the show?
Feel free to be honest. Hey.
I don't think you can really criticize. Sunday was slow, but any show that you do,
Sure. Sundays are always a little bit slower.
a little bit slow and very slow. It was very slow, but again,
it's the first year too, though. So there's a lot of different things you got to kind of take into consideration with new shows.
Correct.
I love the fact I'm born and raised in Bangor, so I love the fact that we have something here that is bringing people out to the mall area where it's struggling right now, and to see people come out, shop, spend time.
Right.
But getting your name out there, getting your brand out there is very valuable. You may not get all the sales that you want,
Sure.
but you make connections with people. We met at a show. I didn't buy any of your product at the Blueberry Festival.
That's right. Absolutely.
But you will this year, right?
And you mentioned that too, Cindy, that just making those connections, and we don't have much of a presence in this area, so it was a great way to get our name out there.
Sure, definitely.
And to meet other people.
Yeah, I found that people weren't, they're not looking for gifts at this time of year, so you weren't making as many sales, but I was mostly just focusing on trying to get the word out there that I exist, and, I probably handed out 500 business cards that day,
We did too.
So hopefully that, generates some business in the future.
Yeah, birthdays, Mother's Day, there's other times of the year things will, come to mind. So we talked about, the show, a lot of shows you go to. I'm guessing there's other soap makers there, right? So how do you take a different approach? You have some competitors. What sets you guys apart from them?
I think our variety and our colors set us apart. And we now have a very large group of people who follow us and look for us at shows. They go to our website, see where we're going to be, and they find us there, and they love our soap.
Great. So you have some returning customers that seek you out. Yeah.
And almost all of the business we get on our website is from people who have already tried our products.
Sure. So let's talk about that for a little bit. So we've talked about the craft fairs that you guys do. Where else can we find your product?
Well, we're in a few shops. Around in Ogunquit, we're in a shop, and we're at the Gardner Arts and Crafts facility at the rest stop in Gardner. We're there. We're in a few beauty shops locally.
Yes.
We're at Flaherty Farm down in Scarborough, but mostly on our website.
Okay. Do you sell on any other platforms? There's a lot of people on Etsy and that do soap, so that's probably
tried Etsy, but there are a lot of people selling soap on Etsy.
Yeah.
And we really, most of the business we have on our website are from people who already have tried our products, and we really wanted to have our own unique, nice website.
Sure.
And we're just upgrading that now and coming out with a new website within a week.
Sure, yeah. So my mom actually tried making some soaps, and she tried selling them on Etsy, and she found that there was just so many people selling, so much competition, and a lot of them were people who were just doing it as a hobby or whatever, and so they were pretty much just trying to make back what they had put into it, whereas if you're trying to run a business, you can't really do that, so the competition there was really difficult for her. So I can see why you would definitely want to be.
And we offer amazing customer service. I mean, if you order on our website, your order is in the mail that day or at the latest the next day, depending on what time.
I'll testify to that. Again, I've seen lots of different soap companies, but again, Terry here, she approached me just with a level of professionalism and customer service that was enough to draw me in. And not only that, but when I said, hey, I need 200 bars of soap, 400 bars of soap, it didn't take all. Obviously, there's a curing process, but for the most part, everything went very, very smooth. So I appreciate that. And I think that's a large part of
And you delivered.
small business. And you delivered. That's huge. That's actually probably the, make or break point for me is, where we're working together business to business. It can be difficult to, with shipping costs and everything. So anywhere where we can cut down some costs. So I appreciate that. So thank you so much.
We even have our husbands deliver.
Yeah, we do.
Put them to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were establishing this business, were there any major hurdles that you had to overcome for this?
Several.
Yeah.
Technology.
Technology was a big one. It was really big. We didn't grow up with technology like you did.
Yeah.
And so it was really difficult. We were very fortunate. At the time, Cindy owned a restaurant, had a young man almost fresh out of high school who just happened to be good with technology. And he started our website. Turns out he was very good at it.
Oh, good.
Generated some orders a little too soon, maybe, or
No, but he was learning while we were learning. And if you get a professional web designer, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Because he was young and he was learning as well. It worked out really well.
He worked hard for us, and
He
it was
worked
very
very
inexpensive.
And he still works very hard for us. He's in Nashville, Tennessee, working for a big company now, doing web design. And but still, we could just ship him out a quick little chat message, and he fixes things like right away.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we
But I had to learn to use the website to put new products in and respond to people who are ordering, and that was completely foreign to me, completely foreign.
And then the social media as well.
Social media and the pictures, taking the pictures.
right?
I don't know if you've ever looked at our
big
website.
things you're
but-
talking about here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't even... he said, well, you're going to have to Photoshop them. And I said, well, what's that? So it's really been a big challenge.
Yeah,
for us.
those photos are like one of the most important things for online
Absolutely.
businesses. I mean, they because that's what the people are basing it off of. Most of the time, people are looking at those photos when they're making a purchase.
And then Cindy took over Facebook, which was a huge help.
Yeah.
And so she
Go,
takes care of that.
Cindy.
So,
Yeah.
so having one person in charge of that
Right.
and not all of us having to
And
worry about that.
that's what I've noticed so far that you guys have some really specific roles and delegation. I like to see that in these, co-owned partners here in this business. I think that's important because I can speak on the other side of that, trying to do it all of these different things you're talking about, trying to do it all myself is very overwhelming. And I feel like I'm not as efficient and fluent in certain areas. So I love to see that. That's great.
But we have to know what the others do.
That too, yeah.
I take care of the orders because the products are in my home, but I was just gone for a week.
Oh,
And
yeah.
while I was gone, several orders came in, and they had to know how to do it.
That's
how
sure.
to print the label and how to do that. And we travel. We like to travel together, and we're going to the Southwest for almost 2 weeks in June. And
Wow.
what's going to happen with the website? And
Right.
people ordering and all that. So we're going to train the husbands.
There you go.
That should be fun. We should do another episode later on and see how that goes. I worked for a boss that said if he were to step outside and get hit by a car, he'd want to make sure that things continued to run smoothly if that happened. I know
We
it seems
could
a little
do
bit
that.
morbid, but
But if we're all three gone,
Yeah.
we're in trouble.
yeah. So when in doubt, train the husbands.
Yes.
And we all get along really well too, and we laugh a lot. So that's really important too. Not only do we have different strengths, we also just get along. We have fun doing it.
Yeah. But do you bump heads though sometimes? Let's be honest.
I don't think
Not
we
really.
do.
No, not
No?
really. I mean,
No, we joke with
sometimes,
each other.
yeah, we
joke.
one of us might be really blunt, but we
Yeah.
do it in a serious, joking kind of
Right.
a way.
Now, Cindy, that was your fault.
It's all my fault.
Have you ever messed up a big batch of soap?
Oh, we've all done it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you got to tell them about when the
Team.
reporter came.
Uh-oh.
Oh, my.
Yeah, we did have a reporter come and do a story on us, and because she had a camera person there and everything, and she wanted to see us make a batch of soap. Well, it was the worst batch of soap you've ever seen.
That's the way it works, isn't
But
it?
we never told her. We just kept right on working, and she thought it was beautiful.
And the photographer was going, "Oh wow!
So
Oh, look at those
we knew
colors.
it was no good. We knew.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of looking at each other, smiling.
It sounds like you definitely had some highs and some lows.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many bars do you produce on a year?
I think we produced 8,000 to 9,000 last year.
Well, we sold 8,000. That was at the craft shows, right?
Correct.
So
That's-
that was just craft shows.
Yeah.
Just
so-
craft shows.
yeah.
So anything that we did through the website or locally
Yeah.
So
would be
We
in
have
addition to that.
shelves and tables just filled with soap.
So you pre-make them and have
Oh,
them
yes.
ready
Yeah.
in stock.
Mhm.
We have
And,
to.
That's what we
you
try.
have to.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
We don't
lasting
have
forever, right? The shelf life on them.
Right.
Do they start to degrade anything?
No, the
Dry
older they
out?
are, the better.
Yes.
It's kind of
Really?
like wine.
So I noticed
Yeah.
that the packaging that you have them all individually sealed and wrapped. Is that more of an aesthetic, or does that help with keeping it?
Well, it's biodegradable for one thing. We
I
decided
remember you
we
changed
wanted to
to
go
that,
to a
yes.
biodegradable product. And we also wanted, everybody picks up our soap.
Right.
And
Because they used to be opened on the ends.
it used
if
to
I
be
remember
open on the
correctly.
ends. But, we were noticing that people were smelling it and their
Because
noses
their
were running.
boogers all
And so a lot of it is for health reasons.
Yeah.
We want our products to look really nice. And
And I think if you want to get into those bigger stores eventually,
right.
you're going to want to
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
sealed up
And
nicely.
so we bought that machine. And,
and then the labels look like they've gotten better.
yeah, I do the labels.
She does all
We
the
do
labels.
the labels ourselves. Yeah.
So, for instance, the whoopie pie soap that I'm looking at, I'm still holding on to it. It has a little picture of a whoopie pie in full
yes.
color.
Yes.
So I like that.
Yes. I try to find a little clip art for each
Yeah.
thing just to make it kind of
It's the
interesting.
small little details. Matt
Right.
can talk on that a little bit. It's just a small little tweaks, whether
Right.
it's the picture quality or the
Sure.
the website, everything working good, and crafting
Yeah.
the everlasting roses that you did for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I mean,
Just the little details on it, right?
yeah, something I'm working on right now is just transitioning over to a more decorative screw for my products. I make a lot of coat racks and wall hooks and things like that, and so I provide the screws for my customers. And right now they're just regular Phillips head screws, and so trying to have something that's a little more rustic that sort of fits the aesthetic of what I'm
Nice.
doing.
That's nice.
Those little details really matter.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. And for a long time, we were not putting our ingredients on there, in
Right.
the way we should be doing it. And, we've learned a lot about laws and regulations.
Yeah, is that an FDA
Yes,
regulation?
Yes,
Okay.
and you're supposed to, your ingredients all, of course, have to be listed on the product and need to be listed in the order by quantity.
Right.
So the ingredient that's first on there is the one that has the largest quantity in the
Yeah.
soap.
And then obviously the weight of the
And
soap.
the
I
weight.
imagine,
We
is
weren't
probably
doing that
important.
for a while. Yeah, and you have to also put it in milliliters.
Oh, okay.
So we learned a lot of those things. at
Would you say
conference.
that was one of your bigger obstacles that you've had to face, or was it the whole technology?
Oh, technology.
Technology, definitely.
Technology.
Technology takes
Yeah.
the cake.
That takes the cake for us.
And just learning how to run a business. Now, taxes.
Oh, I didn't have any idea how to run a business. We met with a wonderful woman from an organization called SCORE.
Yes, I've used Score.
Mhm.
Great.
They
If
were
anybody's
wonderful.
listening right now, you're thinking about starting a business, or maybe you've just started one. You're thinking, oh no, taxes! I got to do taxes.
Right.
Look up Score. They offer free service. They can help you with legal stuff.
She helped us so
She
much.
did. She really did. We had a lot of questions, and she answered them. She was very willing to help us with any more if we had more questions down the road.
Yeah, we now are an LLC. We
Good.
started out I was the owner
Mm-hmm.
at first, just because we didn't know what else to do. But then the second year we became an LLC.
Great.
So, but that was a challenge. We didn't have any idea.
So definitely, if you don't know, I would say reach out to Score. I've used them
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
Wonderful.
You want to learn those things.
And it's free. It
And it's
doesn't
free,
cost
yeah.
anything.
Right.
So are you equal members in the LLC?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
We're all CEOs.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Are you cheap soap officers? Do you have any funny titles or anything?
No, we probably should.
So how do you get the word out? So obviously we know that you do a bunch of craft shows. We know that you have website and social media. Is there any other way that you try to get the word out about Forever Clean Soap?
Instagram, Facebook, website, and then word of mouth.
Newsletter.
Oh, correct.
Yeah, we
That's
do a
right.
newsletter.
Cindy does the newsletter about once every month or
Once
2 months.
every 2 months. I found once a month was
A little too much.
too much, and people would get irritated, and then they'd take the name off the list.
Yeah.
But you have over 50 that are
Yeah.
getting the newsletter, right?
Yeah.
Very good, very good. And do you collect those like at the craft fairs, or are these from your customers that sign up for the newsletter?
On our website at the bottom of the page.
Okay. Yep.
You can sign up for the newsletter. So
Sure.
And we also have a tab on our website for events. So if people want to know where we're
That's
going to
nice.
be,
Very cool.
they're
Yeah.
all listed. There's a calendar and it lists for every month where we're going to be. And you can click on it, it tells you about the event. There's a map. It's linked to a Google map.
Yeah.
So that you have
I like
directions
that.
to get
That's a
there as
good
well.
idea.
Yeah, it's very good. I can imagine that with your product, your customers probably would want to hold the product and smell the product
Exactly.
before they're
Absolutely.
purchasing.
That's why
Purchasing
I think
online might be a little bit
Almost
different.
everybody on our website either received it as a gift or bought one from us
From-
themselves.
Yeah.
We get a lot of out-of-state orders, but in almost every case, if we do find out they received it as a gift.
Yeah.
Then they went to
And
our website.
So what is your website? Where can people find you on social media as well?
The website is foreverclean.com. All small letters.
For clean soap.
Forevercleansoap.com, excuse me. Yes.
Is that the same with all the social media, Facebook and Instagram?
Instagram actually is Forever Soap, Forever Clean Soap ME, because we lost our password for
Oh,
Forever
no.
Clean Soap.
Oh,
So
no.
we created a new one. So it's Forever Clean Soap ME.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Facebook is Forever
Yes.
Clean Soap.
yes.
Is there any other products that you've considered? Are you starting to? It sounds like you're always thinking and creative. You have that creative mind. Should you cut back on the fragrances? Do you have too many, or is there?
No, we never have too many. But
And somebody will always come up with one that we don't have.
just this morning before we came, I researched and printed off a recipe, and we're going to try to make dog soap.
Dog soap. Very cool.
Or shampoo, I guess you'd call it
Yeah.
dog
Yeah.
shampoo to clean a dog. And I found some very interesting, information about that, and because people have mentioned that to us, do you have anything
I've actually
for
had that
dogs?
problem.
Right.
We've had multiple dogs. We've had hypoallergenic dogs. My wife is allergic to the dander or whatever that makes her sneeze and get the reaction. And so we've tried different types of soap. We haven't had a whole lot of success. So
Well, we're going to
maybe-
try one.
yeah.
We'll see.
We will send you one.
So we're always trying new things.
Right. Someone suggested a kitchen soap. So we're
Right.
next week we're making soap and we're going to include a kitchen soap.
Right. And somebody in a gumquid asked us if we would could possibly create a rainbow soap, which is 6 layers of
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
And we did that last week.
We did.
It's beautiful.
Well, actually, it was our second try.
yeah,
yeah.
the first try didn't come
Would
out.
they be like when you rub it, like maybe a strawberry for the first week and then
Yeah.
All the same scent.
Okay.
So we're always trying new things. We had a woman from Louisiana ask. She actually met us at the Blueberry Festival in Machias, and she has a bed and breakfast in Louisiana, and asked us if we could make soap with the fragrance of the sweet olive tree, which is very prevalent in that part of the country, and we found it.
Wow.
Very cool. So you
Found it.
actually you get custom requests
Yes,
for,
and we
for
made
custom
that for her,
scents.
and she has it at her bed and breakfast.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you're outside of Maine. You're starting to increase your reach, although you have such a strong connection with the Maine community, and that's why we're doing this podcast, because there's something unique about Maine. How we go out and we support each other and build those long-lasting relationships. But at the same time, you're able to reach outside of Maine. It sounds like do these custom requests. Do you have what's your future look like? Are you looking? You talked about a few items that you'd like to introduce. Would you like to get into the Hannafords or the big box stores or do more? No, you want to just kind of keep
No,
it.
we want to continue doing just the three of us. Excuse me, making our own homemade products,
Yeah.
and
Just kind of coast off into the sunset.
right.
There you go.
No need to get anything.
They
too
wouldn't be
crazy.
special anymore, I think, if they were Hannaford.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for making the drive and coming up here, and very surprised to have all of you here in our little
here.
studio. It's great.
Yeah, we got to kind of peel back the layers of your business and see that each one of you have a certain task that you do and get to hear different thoughts and perspectives on the company. I love it. So thank you for coming in and sharing this and all these different products here in front of us. They smell so great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Made in Maine podcast, brought to you by Daniel Finnemore from Box of Maine and Matthew Foster from Black Dog Ironworks. So for this giveaway, you need to head over to our Facebook page, Made in Maine Podcast. Go ahead and give us a like and a review. And also on any streaming platform that you're listening on, we would appreciate your honest reviews. Then we would like you to go over to Forever Clean Soap and leave them a nice review as well. We'll post the giveaway on the page shortly after this episode. Go ahead and comment down there, what fragrance was their biggest dud? If you enjoyed this episode of the Made in Maine podcast, then please consider supporting us through Patreon. Patreon is a great way for our listeners to support the podcast by donating a couple bucks to us for each episode that we put out. The podcast has not been free to produce, from the equipment that we need to record these episodes to the fees that we pay to host the podcast. It does cost us some money, and any amount of support that you can give would be greatly appreciated. Right now, there are 3 tiers that you can choose from, and some of the donor tiers come along with some benefits. So head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/MadeInMainePodcast to learn more. You can also help us put Maine on the map by sharing episodes on social media sites like Facebook or Instagram, anywhere that you think someone would be interested in our content. Another way you can support us by leaving us a review on the podcast app that you are listening on, and we may even choose your review to share it on the next episode. You can find us on Made in Maine Podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/MadeInMainePodcast. You can also find each episode on the podcast platforms like Podbean, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, and now on YouTube as Made in Maine Podcast. Thank you for listening and helping us put Maine on the map.